everyone, welcome to the class of Modern Indian History. For today's class, we are going to explore the topic, the rise of the British, Battle of Plassey. Battle of Plassey fought on 23rd June 1757 between the force of Nawab Siraj-ud-Daulah of Bengal and English East India Company led by Robert Clive is considered as one of the significant episodes of modern Indian history. It was fought in a small village called Plassey or Plassey in Bengal. Even though the battle itself was small, even though it involves little military combatments, the result, the outcome of this battle was so extensive, was so far-reaching, because with this Battle of Plassey, the English East India Company could establish their political dominance over India. So in that sense, this battle is very important. When we are analyzing it from the perspective of the UPSC students or from competitive examination perspective, this battle will give you an overview regarding how company transformed from a trading organization to a territorial power. We know that English East India Company came to India for extending their trading purpose in India and other eastern countries. So in India, once they came, they understood the political scenario, they began to exploit the rivalries among Indian rulers, and finally they became the masters of Indian political scenario. So we are going to explore the course, consequence as well as the significance of Battle of Plassey in today's class. So let's dive into the topic. First, we need to understand the background, the scenario in which the Battle of Plassey took place. So from trade to territorial power. I'm going to explain how the company was eventually transformed from a commercial organization to a territorial power, from trade to territory. So, Battle of Plassey marks the real beginning of British political rule in India. I'll explain how that happened. As I mentioned in the introduction, it was not a large military kind of battle or some kind of conflict. It was a small military conflict. However, its result was so far-reaching that it changed the course of Indian history. Because it was Battle of Plassey that the East India Company could establish their political dominance over India. Now, here we need to understand the political background in which this war took place. So, let's talk about the political scenario of the middle 18th century. We know that during the middle of 18th century, there is this decline of Mughal authority. Decline of Mughal authority in the sense, we know that the Mughal Empire began to weaken after the death of Aurangzeb in the year 1707. So this year was very significant because it marked the death of Aurangzeb. Aurangzeb was the last great Mughal ruler. After his death, what happened is that the successive Mughal rulers who came to power were weak. They were not in a position to control the long distance territories. Since they were not in a position to control the long distance territory, that actually paved the way for not only for Indian rulers but also for other European trading companies, particularly the English East India Company, to weaken this politically fragmented scenario of middle of the 18th century. So now the English East India Company, as well as the governors of Mughal Empire, as well as along with that the local indigenous rulers, they tried to exploit the political fragmentation. They became autonomous. They began to expand or extend their control over other territories. Just like the governors and the Indian rulers, English East India Company also make utilize of this opportunity. They began to expand their control over Bengal. So when we are coming to the context of Bengal, why Bengal attracted the English East India Company? That is a very significant, important question. Bengal was one of the richest province of Mughal India. Richest province in the sense, it was considered as the backbone of Mughal economy. It was considered as one of the paradise of nations because of its resources and richness. During this period, Bengal was controlled by the Nawab Siraj-ud-Daulah. Now, there is this province Bengal. Siraj-ud-Daulah is the ruler. He is Nawab of Bengal. He is ruling there, controlling the resources, maintaining the political administration. However, the wealth, the richness, the resource of Bengal attracted English East India Company to this particular province of Mughal Empire. Now here is the question. Why was Bengal so important? So we are going to talk about the economic cause of the Battle of Plassey. So we have to understand the economic scenario, then only we'll get a picture of this, how and why Battle of Plassey happened. So as I was mentioning, Bengal was one of the richest province. It had extensive fertile soil. Fertile soil in the sense it has a rich, or Bengal was blessed with rich alluvial soil which was deposited by the Ganga Brahmaputra river system. And that is why Bengal could cultivate crops such as indigo, sugar, cotton, etc. Moreover, it was a very famous textile and trading hub. It was a very famous center for cotton, muslin, spices, etc. Along with that, Bengal had number of strategic ports and river routes. Bengal had extensive network of navigable trading routes, navigable river routes. In fact, almost all the important trading hubs such as Calcutta, Kasim Bazar, Hooghly, all these trading centers were connected by these river routes, and that is why transportation was so easy as far as this trading hub is concerned. That is why, because of all these resources, the rich textiles, fine muslin, silk, all other resources, transportation was easy, number of trading hubs were there, cultivation is so extensive. Because of all these reasons, the English East India Company wanted to establish their political control over Bengal so that they can squeeze, they can exploit, they can extract the resource of one of the richest province of India. So here, the immense wealth of Bengal attracted Europeans, particularly the English East India Company, to Bengal. Now, we have to check other immediate causes. So here we are going to analyze the important political reasons which we are going to explore the political causes which led to the Battle of Plassey. So the first cause which led to the Battle of Plassey is the misuse of trade privileges by the British. Here, I need to draw your attention to the 1717 Farman issued by the Mughal ruler Farrukh Siyar. So when Farrukh Siyar became the Mughal ruler in the year 1717, he granted a Farman to the English East India Company. Farman is more or less equal to a charter. By this Farman, Farrukh Siyar allowed English East India Company to conduct duty-free trades in Bengal. Duty-free trades in the sense, if they are conducting trading activities in Bengal, they don't want to pay any kind of customs duty or any other kind of tax. So which allowed East India Company to conduct free trade in Bengal. Say they got something called dastaks. Dastaks means it is the duty-free trading pass. It's a pass which allowed East India Company officials to conduct their official trade without paying any duties or taxes within Bengal. This is a very significant farman. However, in course of time, what happened is that company officials began to misuse this trading privilege. They began to use dastaks or free trading passes for conducting their or for carrying out their private trade also. So this was disliked by Siraj-ud-Daulah, the Nawab of Bengal. So that is the first reason why this battle happened. There is the second reason, fortification of Fort William. Fortification of Fort William in the sense, we know that Calcutta was one of the important trading settlement of English East India Company. They, without their permission obtaining from the Siraj-ud-Daulah, they started to fortify, they started to expand their fortification over Fort William in Calcutta. This was a direct challenge against the authority and sovereignty of Siraj-ud-Daulah. Siraj-ud-Daulah was a Nawab who really wanted to establish his firm hand over Bengal's administration, Bengal's resources, economy, etc. So now, British, the English East India Company, without obtaining permission from Nawab Siraj-ud-Daulah, expanded their fortification around the Fort William. So, Nawab Siraj-ud-Daulah considered it as an open challenge against his authority and sovereignty. That was the second reason for the Battle of Plassey. Now, the third reason is here, British sheltering of Nawab's enemies. Here what happened is that the English East India Company gave shelter to a person called Krishna Das. Krishna Das was a son of Raj Ballabh. Raj Ballabh was an important officer in the court of Nawab Siraj-ud-Daulah. Nawab suspected Raj Ballabh for political intrigue as well as for economic corruption. So fearing punishments as well as confiscation of wealth from the side of Nawab Siraj-ud-Daulah, Krishna Das escaped to Calcutta along with his treasures. Now, it is the company, English East India Company, which gave shelter and protection to Krishna Das, who was Nawab's enemy. Nawab demanded English East India Company to hand over Krishna Das along with his treasures. However, company refused to comply with the orders of Nawab Siraj-ud-Daulah. That was another significant reason for happening this Battle of Plassey. So altogether what we can see is that the continuous mistrust between two parties, Nawab Siraj-ud-Daulah and English East India Company, led to the Battle of Plassey. So here we need to understand the causes of Battle of Plassey. One prime reason for this is the British ambition, the ambition of East India Company to expand their control over the richness, the wealth of Bengal. There are some other political reasons like this, the misuse of trade privileges, fortification of Fort William without the order from Nawab Siraj-ud-Daulah, British sheltering of Nawab's enemies, etc. were some of the other political reasons which in fact led to the Battle of Plassey. Now, let's talk about the Black Hole tragedy of 1756. So, Black Hole tragedy in the sense, the Nawab captured the Fort William in 1756 June from the side of English East India Company. We know that Fort William was controlled by the East India Company. What exactly happened is that in the month of June 1756, Nawab Siraj-ud-Daulah captured Fort William from the side of English East India Company and he confined almost 146 European prisoners in a small room of this Fort William. On the next day, what happened is that out of these 146 European prisoners, 123 were died. 123 were died due to heat, lack of ventilation, overcrowding, etc. This incident is known as Black Hole tragedy in the history of Bengal. However, according to modern historians, there are very less evidence to suggest that this thing has been happened. It may be a kind of story used by the British to justify their military actions against Nawab Siraj-ud-Daulah. So, this Black Hole tragedy is used as a propaganda tool by the company to justify their war against or military actions against the Nawab Siraj-ud-Daulah. However, we need to understand this particular incident called Black Hole tragedy that was a pretext for the war or the Battle of Plassey. Now, this is another significant episode of the Battle of Plassey, that is conspiracy against Siraj-ud-Daulah. So here what happened is that the Nawab's rule, Siraj-ud-Daulah's rule was hated by many internal officials. Many Bengali nobles had discontent against Nawab Siraj-ud-Daulah's rule. For example, his Bakshi, the key person here is Mir Jafar, the Bakshi of Siraj-ud-Daulah or the commander-in-chief of Siraj-ud-Daulah. So Mir Jafar, along with some other affluent persons like Jagat Seth, Rai-Durlabh, etc. These people, they joined along with the East India Company. They prepared a conspiracy and fought against Nawab Siraj-ud-Daulah. So what exactly happened is that Mir Jafar, who was the commander-in-chief of the Siraj-ud-Daulah, had an ambition to become the next Nawab. So he joined hands with the English East India Company. Bankers like Jagat Seth, Rai-Durlabh, they also hated the policies of Nawab Siraj-ud-Daulah and hence joined with the East India Company. So there is a master plan, there is a conspiracy which is happening against the Nawab Siraj-ud-Daulah. Now what happened is that as a result of this conspiracy, the East India Company found Mir Jafar as the suitable candidate for the next Nawab. So East India Company agreed that they will make Mir Jafar as the next Nawab if Siraj-ud-Daulah got defeated in the coming battle. Now, Mir Jafar also pledged his allegiance to the English East India Company. According to the conspiracy, Mir Jafar agreed that he will withhold the support to the Nawab Siraj-ud-Daulah during the battle, so he'll withdraw his army, which will definitely weaken the military strategy as well as the battle plans of Nawab Siraj-ud-Daulah. So this is going to happen. So this conspiracy was there, which has happened in the background of the Battle of Plassey. Nawab Siraj-ud-Daulah was completely unaware of such kind of a conspiracy. Now, here we need to understand this person called Robert Clive. He is the master strategist, the master brain behind the Battle of Plassey. What happened is that in the year June, we mentioned that when we discussed about the Black Hole tragedy, we mentioned that in June 1756, Siraj-ud-Daulah recaptured the Fort William from the English East India Company. So this news of capturing of Fort William by Nawab Siraj-ud-Daulah reached in the Madras High Quarters of English East India Company. So the officials, the European officials in Madras, they immediately decided to send a military expedition to Bengal against Nawab Siraj-ud-Daulah. And the head of this military expedition was none other than Robert Clive. Robert Clive was the head of the army, and Admiral Charles Watson was the leader or the head of the British Navy. So this army, along with Navy, they moved to Bengal. Now, Robert Clive, he reached Bengal, and in the month of January 1757, he recaptured the Fort William from Nawab Siraj-ud-Daulah. In the month of February 1757, he forced Nawab Siraj-ud-Daulah to sign in this treaty called Alinagar. In the month of March 1757, he captured Chandanagar from French East India Company. So what we can say is that once Robert Clive arrived in Bengal, he had initial successes in 1757. After that, he made a conspiracy with Mir Jafar, the commander-in-chief of Siraj-ud-Daulah, and other wealthy, affluent merchants of Bengal such as Rai Durlab, Jagat Seth, etc. All these conspiracies finally culminated in the Battle of Plassey. Now, we are going to discuss about the course of the Battle of Plassey. So, we just discussed about the background, the causes. Now, we are going to enter into the battlefield of Plassey. So, the Battle of Plassey fought in a small village called Plassey or Palashi near Bhagirathi River. Here, you can see the strength of Nawab's army as well as Clive's army. So, Nawab had an army which was almost consisting of 50,000 soldiers. Here, in the context of British troops, which was consisting of nearly 3,000 soldiers. So you can see here the difference between Nawab's army as well as British troops. Nawab had 50,000, English East India Company had only 3,000. So when we are seeing this statistics, we may think that, okay, the definite outcome of this battle may be that the Nawab can easily defeat English East India Company. But as we know, that is not what exactly happened. Course of the Battle of Plassey. So, battle fought at Plassey, as I mentioned earlier. It was on the banks of the Bhagirathi River. Nawab Siraj-ud-Daulah commanded a much more stronger, larger army compared to the English East India Company. And as a pretext to the war, we know that there is a conspiracy which happened between Mir Jafar, Jagat Seth and the English East India Company. According to the conspiracy, English East India Company agreed to make Mir Jafar as the next Nawab, and based on this provision, Mir Jafar also decided to withhold his support, withdraw the army for Nawab Siraj-ud-Daulah during the course of the battle. So this key conspiracy is there which happened in the background of the Battle of Plassey. Now, it was on the same day there is a heavy rain. So when this heavy rain happened, Nawab could not protect his gunpowder arms and ammunition. That significantly affected Nawab's fighting capacity. At the same time, the British could protect the gunpowder, their other arms and ammunition by using tarpaulins, which significantly altered the course of the Battle of Plassey favorably to the English East India Company. In the course of the battle, there is this death of Mir Madan, who was a very loyal officer of Nawab Siraj-ud-Daulah. So once the death of Mir Madan happened, that affected the fighting capacity of Nawab's army. More than that, at the significant, more than this, Mir Jafar also withheld support and withdrew the army. So all these together led to the success of English East India Company at the Battle of Plassey and the defeat of Nawab Siraj-ud-Daulah. So what happened to Siraj-ud-Daulah? He was defeated. He fled from the Battle of Plassey. He fled from the battleground. He tried to escape to Murshidabad, but later he was captured and executed. So Nawab Siraj-ud-Daulah was executed by the East India Company. Now, the battle which happened favorably for the English East India Company, not because of the military diplomacy or techniques, but because of the treachery, the conspiracy, the betrayal done by Mir Jafar and other key officials of Nawab Siraj-ud-Daulah. So this is the major course of the Battle of Plassey. Now, if you're asking this question, why Siraj-ud-Daulah lost the battle? There are multiple reasons. One reason, obviously, Mir Jafar did not fight. Second reason, poor leadership and coordination among the army of Nawab Siraj-ud-Daulah. Treachery and internal divisions also weakened the army as well as the battle strategy of Nawab Siraj-ud-Daulah. So these were some of the reasons why Siraj lost the battle. Now we are going to explain the immediate result of the Battle of Plassey. These are the immediate result. So as we know, Siraj-ud-Daulah defeated and he was killed by the English officials. Now Mir Jafar became the next Nawab as promised by the English East India Company. We discussed about this conspiracy and we know that once Siraj-ud-Daulah was defeated, the next Nawab will be Mir Jafar as discussed by the English East India Company. So now Mir Jafar is the Nawab. But he completely owed his allegiance to the East India Company. British gained enormous wealth. That is the important outcome of this battle, that Britain or English East India Company could expand their control over the richness, the wealth, the resource of Bengal. That is one of the most important, significant outcome of this particular battle. British control over Bengal's treasury, company officials became extremely wealthy, beginning of economic drain. So these are some of the immediate results of the Battle of Plassey. Now we are going to discuss about the significance of this particular battle. So here you can see the major significance. One is control over the wealth of Bengal, as we are discussing. The second one is that of drain of wealth began from Bengal. Financial strength for expansion. Once they get resource from Bengal, they could use this resource and wealth for maintaining their army. So of course, revenue, finance, economy is closely depend or closely will help maintaining a strong army, strong political organization. So once the English East India Company started getting resource from Bengal, they used this resource or wealth for maintaining, for expanding their political control over India. So this is actually two interdependent points. Now shift from trade to revenue extraction. That is how in the beginning I mentioned, from a commercial enterprise, commercial organization, company gradually evolved into a territorial organization or a territorial power, the political power over India, laying the base for Diwani right. Diwani right is the right for collecting revenue. We'll explain this particular topic in our next class. So these are some of the significance of the Battle of Plassey. So here you have a detailed slide consisting of the multiple aspects of the Battle of Plassey and how it affected the Bengal Nawab as well as the company before and after. One first aspect is that of the nature of the East India Company. So nature of the East India Company before the Battle of Plassey is that it was primarily a trading corporation. So after the Battle of Plassey, what happened? It became a political power. So you can see the transition. Before Battle of Plassey, it was just a trading organization. After the Battle of Plassey, it became a major political power. Our second aspect is political authority in Bengal. We know that the Nawab was the supreme head of Bengal. He was the one who maintained administration. But after the Battle of Plassey, Nawab, here in this context, Mir Jafar became completely dependent on the company, and company became the real kingmakers during this context. Now, the control of wealth and revenue was earlier, before Plassey, was controlled by the Nawab's administration. Now, company gained access to share or a profit from Bengal. Commercial privileges. Initially, companies sought permissions from the Bengal Nawab to get some kind of concessions or trade privileges, etc. Now, it is the company which decide the trading privileges or concessions, whatever it is. Balance of power. Before Battle of Plassey, Indian rulers held greater political autonomy. Now, especially in the context of Bengal, the Nawab or the ruler of Bengal became dependent on the company. So you can see how things have been changed. Another aspect is that of European rivalry. Before the Battle of Plassey and after also there were multiple European powers were there. However, with Battle of Plassey, the English East India Company could establish their supremacy over other European trading companies. Territorial ambitions. When they came to India, they had limited territorial ambitions. They don't had the ambition to create a extensive political empire in India. They had merely trading ambitions. But once they defeated one of the strong Nawab, one of the strong ruler of India, they had this military ambitions began to grow. They began to expand their political control. Status of the Mughal Empire. Mughal authority before the Battle of Plassey still carried symbolic legitimacy. However, now we can see that the Mughal Empire, the power of Mughal Empire got declined and the power of British is increasing day by day in the context of India. Military position. Company earlier depended on local rulers. Now what happened? Local rulers began to depend on the company after the Battle of Plassey. So these are some of the significant effect of the Battle of Plassey. You can change that. You can see the transition of the company. Once they were here for the trade, just for trading pepper, spices, cotton, muslin, etc. Now, after involving in those kind of trading agreements and organizations, now the company gradually stepped into the political control initially over the Bengal region. Bengal was so significant because it was the backbone of Mughal economy during that time. So you can see the journey of company from a trading corporation to a territorial power. That in fact happened with the Battle of Plassey. So the outcome of Battle of Plassey was so far-reaching that it in fact shaped the history of modern India. Now, here are two PYQs. Let me read the first question. Which one of the following is the correct chronological order of the battles fought in India in the 18th century? So there are four options are there. Battle of Wandiwash, Battle of Buxar, Battle of Amber, Battle of Plassey. Now we need to arrange these wars in chronological order. So here you can see the answer B. So the first battle was Battle of Amber, which was fought between French East India Company and the local rulers of India. This was the second battle of Carnatic. Now, after Battle of Amber, it was Battle of Plassey happened in the year 1757. Then Battle of Wandiwash happened in the year 1760. Then we have Battle of Buxar, which happened in the year 1764. So all these battles are happen in a chronological order. The right answer, here you can see the years of all these battles. Amber in year 49, 57 Battle of Plassey, 60 Battle of Wandiwash, 64 Battle of Buxar. So this is the right chronological order as far as these battles are concerned. Now coming to our second question, it's comparatively easier question. The Battle of Plassey is regarded as a turning point in Indian history because it led to, here comes our four options: end of Mughal rule, beginning of British political control in India, defeat of the Marathas, establishment of French supremacy. I know that after watching this class, all of you will say this answer, beginning of British political control in India. See, Plassey did not end the Mughal rule. Mughal rule was there, but their power got weakened. They are there, but their power got weakened. So this is the right answer, beginning of British political control in Bengal. So this is a brief discussion on Battle of Plassey, its major causes, course, consequence, as well as the significance of this particular battle. So with that, I'm winding up this particular class. Let's see you in the next class. Thank you.